What's up, Look at this. This is crazy. We're going live, and let me just shut this music off because I was giving it a shot to see how it sounded. But good morning,
It's actually
everyone.
not too bad. I mean, it's not too bad, honestly.
It was called Dance Pop.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't dancing, but yes, I
I
feel that
was I was popping though.
you were popping. Okay, okay. Yeah, no, actually, it's a good one. I mean, honestly, I think it's not too bad. It's a good intro lude. I think it is. I don't
Yeah,
even know the name of it
it was
anymore.
gentle. It was a
It was
gentle pop
gentle.
dance.
Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I still don't see myself dancing, but it's okay though. Next
No,
time. Nah, next time.
awesome,
It's
man.
gonna take a little more than that. But man,
Yeah,
Kun, I just want to say good morning to you, my friend. Good morning to everyone out there in all the web world and internets and everything.
in the
Um,
metaverses.
in the
We gotta
metaverses, yeah,
we gotta take this to the metaverse, man.
man, imagine, can they handle us? My lord,
I don't
I
know.
wish they can. But honestly, yeah, welcome, good morning to everyone. Thank God it's Friday. Thank God
For
it's real
sure.
estate and unwrapped. Hey, I know you only see two heads, but our third head is still in Puerto Rico or might be flying back.
Yeah, I think she said
Right?
she was gonna be on the terminal or whatnot, or like on the boarding. I'm not sure.
It's
Um,
okay. It's all right.
but I'll
I
say good morning and it'll come in from Gigi's account. So it
There you
looks like
go.
she's here.
At the same time, you know what? We wish her good morning, safe flight back. We look forward to seeing
For
her next
sure.
week.
Can't wait to have her on.
And yeah, man, it's gonna be an amazing time to have her back on the board. But look, man, thank you for being here. Definitely, let's get this going. I had to say that this is one. I generally don't research as much when it comes to certain topics that we do, right?
Okay.
Because we have the experience, we have the knowledge. But it turned out for me to be a little bit more research here and there. Like you just plugged on one word and all of a sudden eight more research just came
Yeah.
out, right? So whether it became a rabbit hole or not, it just became that one moment of, oh, that's what that means. Oh, right. Yeah. And all this information that you either got educated when you first started or you did some education on your CEs, it just, really came back and it was really interesting. So I look forward to it. I look forward to even speaking
Yeah.
about this.
No, I'm excited about it only because this is something that I've been wanting to do for some time. And what I mean by that is, we're going to be discussing whether or not real estate is a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me that question, we could literally do this live in 2 seconds. My answer is yes, it's a good investment. Okay, that's it. Done deal. Done deal, man. Whatever you buy right now, literally,
Yeah.
it's like appreciating within a year. I saw that on Keep Incurring Matters. They said this past year alone, whoever purchased a year ago, they already have like almost 56,000, 57,000 in equity in their home. And
Yeah.
I shared that post. I said, this is crazy because I was in Florida. We were helping my parents look at some properties, and we came across lots, like vacant lots that were
Right.
literally 50, 60 grand. Like you could buy a piece of
Wow.
lot. And I don't mean like in the boonies either. I'm talking about like it's close. There's houses around. There's just this plot of land that's probably 30 by 100 with just trees on it. You know what I mean? Like if you
Wow.
bought that lot, you'd have to demo it. But the kicker is that you can create something to your liking, you know.
And
Um,
that's interesting in that level. See, now you went down to Florida. I've been speaking to, new homeowners now. That recently bought something upstate, which I was shocked on the price for the value that they're getting, meaning the size
yeah,
and the kind of house, right? So, he tells me himself that if he would have bought a year ago, right? Yeah, about a year ago, he would have had a $60,000 equity on it right now. So I was like, wow. See, you
crazy.
gotta, you gotta, the best questions I always get is this: it's how's the market, and when should I buy? And obviously, how's the market is doing well, right?
Yeah,
When should you buy? Now. It's like
for sure,
ahora, right?
for
Let's
sure.
go. Let's go and let's make this happen because what you're gonna get is one thing I feel like important investments, especially in investing in real estate. It's not like the stock market where it's very volatile. You can go up and down just with a hiccup. real estate grows. Real estate goes up and down, but it keeps going up though for some reason, right? Not like crypto, or other ones where it's one day here, one day there. Real estate definitely goes up, and I appreciate how real estate is going along, and I love being in this industry for that reason, because you actually get to grow and see how things are coming along for our homes. So let's go to our first slide. Let's see what.
Sure. Let's jump right into it. Ooh, this is good. So property location, right? Where are we going to find this property? And it's great because we came across this article, and I'll read through it. Why is it important? I mean, usually it's always location, and location is still king and continues to be the most important factor for profitability in real estate investing. Proximity to amenities, green space, because that's what people are looking for now, right? Think about it. Israel, we have a bunch of co-ops, especially like in the areas of Forest Hills, Regal Park, Kew Gardens, Briarwood. Right. You can go a little further to Woodside, Sunnyside. But we know that at some point they were desirable. Why? They were close to transportation. They were close to Manhattan. People wanted that. So proximity to be close to the city was a big thing before the pandemic. After the pandemic, people looking for green spaces, scenic views, the neighborhood status factor. Wow, I'm having trouble.
It's okay. So I'll jump.
I think I'd said into residential properties valuations, and just to finish off here, close to markets, warehouses, transportation hubs, freeways, and tax exempt areas play an important role in commercial property values.
So, I mean, to piggyback on that in our own words, pretty much, look, the one thing I always say, it's location, 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 right? These words are not, they sound ancient, but they are true, location, 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 right? In the sense that some locations will give you a high appreciation or a high value and give you those reasons because, as you already mentioned, whether they're close to the train, whether they have a really good school, parks, whatever amenities for that particular buyer is looking for, and the rest of the buyers who are out there, pretty much it all depends on where it is. Is it close to restaurants? Am I able to get to work? Well, pre-pandemic, I'm sure. Am I able to get to work within a half hour versus 2 hours, I mean, there are buyers out there that have actually bought homes as an investment, and investors themselves too, in the sense that they'll buy homes out of state and still come to work 2 hours. Take them a 2-hour trip. That's a 4-hour day. It's up to you. I won't do it. That's not me. Not going to happen. However, what's important to you when it comes to location, you write those things down as as a person who's going to buy for themselves, or as an investor, you start looking at what homes are actually selling, in the sense that, are they actually selling? What did they sell last year versus this year, and how well are they doing in this particular location?
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the key in considering property locations is almost like you got to think midterm, long-term views, right? Yep. Like right now, for example, we might be looking for that open land, right? Where you have like one house there and not too many houses, and I don't want too many neighbors. But clearly a lot of people want that in today's day and age, right? A lot of people want that. So they're spacing out. People are working from home. People are looking for that. So what's going to happen in the next future, 5-10 years from now? If you purchase it someplace that's maybe not as noisy, maybe not that many properties, 5-10 years from now, you're going to see a lot of these lots, like I mentioned in Florida, a lot of these lots will be excavated. They're going to start building the foundation to build new homes on top of it. And now you have a new neighbor popping up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is amazing.
Which is good. It's going to drive the value of the property up. Like we said before, people that were buying a year ago, 2 years ago, imagine that. People that bought 2 years ago, they're saying someone that purchased a year ago could have potentially made $67,000 in the past year. Imagine if you purchased 2 years ago. I remember hearing the same thing for the year before. Across the nation, worldwide, people were actually in 1 year having almost $70,000 in home equity. This was 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So imagine how all of that just adds up, which is
so
crazy.
And I just want to, we're in New York. So I just sort of want to conclude with this point is one of the areas that to this day, I'm like, man, I remember when I was a kid going to those areas, Long Island City. The
Yeah.
moment that we started having buildings in Long Island City, oh my lord, prices went up. Buildings started sprouting out like mushrooms, and
Yeah.
things started actually selling over and over again to the point that you can get a condo for either a two-bedroom, two bath for $1 million now. When
Crazy.
back then, I mean, honestly, I don't want to talk about my age, but I was a little man. I saw factories around that area. I saw, I saw
I
things that
saw,
I'm like,
yeah, I saw things that come out at night around that area that, like, damn, we shouldn't be around here right now,
right,
and
exactly. But now
now
look
it's
at this.
desirable,
Right, exactly. So it's
you
amazing.
know.
It's amazing.
So I would say
Uh,
key for that is, again, even though, like, for example, and I'm gonna throw it out there now, we live in New York, right? We live in
yep.
Queens. We have the 5 boroughs here, and if you dissect Queens, for the most part, a lot of people, and I'm gonna say it, a lot of people are looking for homes in North Queens.
Yeah.
They kind of don't want to go to South Queens. But if you think about it, right, 5-10 years from now, that's all. Like 5-10 years from now, that's all that there's really space. Like in south of Queens, east of Queens, that's where you're gonna find the majority of space.
Yeah.
So it's only inevitable that people are gonna start making their way there. I remember maybe what 2 years ago, you could find a house in South Queens for maybe 400,
Yeah.
close to
Yeah. Still
500.
possible. Still
Now,
possible. Yeah.
well, now depending on the conditions, but now all these
True.
newly renovated homes, they're nowhere near that. They're above
Right.
500K. You know
You're
what I
absolutely
mean?
right.
So
Absolutely right. I mean, and it goes again. It's all depending on what the investors are doing nowadays,
for
flipping and
sure,
everything. But we'll get into that later, though.
sure. You want to read this one?
Sure. So valuations of the property valuations is important for financing during the purchase, listing price, investments, and analysis, insurance, and taxation. They all depend on real estate valuations. So when you're actually looking at a property, at the end of the day, pretty much you want to make sure that you're buying something, not overpriced. You want to make sure that you're actually buying something that's going to give you some kind of growth later on in the future. Yes, we've just said it right now, where in
Yeah.
your case, $60,000 or $50,000. In case I just spoke to a couple of buyers who just recently bought a home last year, they would have made $60,000. So things like that. I mean, Auntie, you want to make sure as you're evaluating each house 1, house 2, house 3,
Mhm.
how's it going to take you to that next level? All right, what's it going to give you? How are you going to make sure that you're going to make that kind of money? Because we both know, like here in New York, I mean, there's portions of New York, like Long Island, where taxes compared to the city are doubled, right?
Yeah.
So taxations alone, I mean, honestly, are you going to be spending the same amount versus something in Queens? However, the values of prices out here in Queens, in Brooklyn
A
and
lot
in
higher.
other areas as well, are much higher, but the taxations
Mhm.
are lower. So at the end of the day, when you do your math, your Einstein math on that is you want to make sure that you don't spend too much
Mm.
so that you're able to get something at the end when you're about to sell it. So
Yeah. So I would probably just add to that the things to look for. So commonly used real estate valuation methods would be this, right? A sales comparison approach. That's the first one.
mhm.
Recent comparables of sales of the property with similar characteristics. I know we get it a lot. Look, my neighboring house sold for X amount of dollars. I could sell the same. But the
Right.
difference between your house and their house could easily be that's a colonial, yours is probably a Cape style home. So just because you're in the same block doesn't mean it's the same house and it's the same, characteristics. Those are things you have to look for. Cost approach. All right. The cost of the land and construction minus depreciation, suitable for new construction. So, like we mentioned before, if you buy land, yeah, this land's going to cost you 50K. How much is it going to cost for you to knock those trees down? How much is it going to cost for you to
Right.
start to set up the foundation of that property? How much is it going to
Right.
cost for you to build that place, right? And then ultimately, income approach. So based on expected cash inflows, suitable for rent. There's a lot of websites that we can go to. You can look to see what the rental market value is if you're looking to rent that property out to somebody in the area and hold them as a
Absolutely.
tenant. Um, or B, depending on the laws or the state laws or the town laws, you might be able to do like a short-term rental, like Airbnbs or a home away. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you want to kind of calculate what's going to make the most sense for you. Is it going to make more sense to hold a permanent tenant for some time? Again, check your state laws because here in New York, they favor the tenant. Places like, for example, Florida favor the landlord. So for you to actually, unfortunately, if you're dealing with somebody or an eviction, it's a lot quicker in Florida than it is in New York.
Sure.
So those are things you want to look at. So is it going to make more sense for me to hold a solid tenant for a few years, or is it going to make more sense for me to rent this out like a vacation home? And if you're trying to set up a vacation home, try to see the surrounding areas. What's nearby, right? Is there the beach? Is there a water park? Is there a mall? Is there shopping centers? If you're looking for a snow home, somewhere to get away for the winter, are the ski slopes nearby, right? Those are things that you want to kind of keep in mind.
Right. Awesome. Good points, man. Really, really good
Thank
points. All right.
Ooh, this is good.
Investment purpose. All right. You got this?
Sure, I'll read it. So, investment purpose and investment horizon. So, given the low liquidity and high value investments in real estate, a lack of clarity on purpose may lead to unexpected results, including financial distress. All right, keep that in mind, especially if you're investing with a mortgage. So, what does that kind of break down, right? Today, everybody talks about fix and flips. I have some clients that are contractors. Okay. They're
Yeah.
contractors, and their biggest goal, their biggest dream is to find a house for a good price, great deal. All right. So they can renovate it and flip it. Sometimes they have the cash, sometimes you don't have the cash. There's hard money lenders. But now, if we're realtors, right? If we're realtors, we have access to all the tools that we need to now look and do this research to say, okay, cool. If I was to buy this home and I know it needs a gut renovation and I know it's going to run me 100K, how much can I potentially sell this home for back on the market, right? And sometimes people start off with hard money loans. I know somebody over here close to me in the Valley Stream area. They're charging anywhere between 8 to 10% on the money they lend you. They can draw up
Right.
contracts for 6 months, 9 months, or 1 year. In that term, you would have to pay the interest. You don't have to pay the full amount. You just have to pay whatever that interest is for the amount of money that you borrow. Some of them give you points. If you do more work with them, you have more points that they kind of discount the interest rate. So you could potentially get a lower interest rate. But my
Right.
my idea is this. If you are someone who's looking to do that, like a fix and flip, link up with a realtor. All right. They're going to be your best friend. Why? They know the market. They know how long it takes to sell a property. They know they know how to market the property. You know what I mean? So those are things that are going to help you liquidate this. If you're trying to do a fix and flip, this is the quickest way for you to liquidate it. You speak to the agent, find out how long it's going to take to sell on the market, how much it could potentially sell for. And then if the numbers make sense, do it. Don't put yourself in a position where you think it's going to happen. You know, you're on a hope and a dream, and next thing you know, something happens, and now 1 year's up and you got to pay that hard money back.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So those are things you would have to kind of take into account for.
Yeah, I completely agree with all those. And honestly, the short, I mean, the only additive that I have on this is that it's perfectly said in the beginning, which is lower liquidity with high volume investment. So pretty much you don't have to always necessarily put in 20% or 10% down. You can put in 3% in order to get to either a 3-family home or 2-family home and then be able to rent that out later on. You know, there's programs out there, or at least there's ways that you can actually own 2-3 properties within 5-6 years. You know, the fix and flip is a good one. Fix and hold is another good one. But
Buy
again,
and
I've actually,
lease.
yeah, buy and lease is another good one, or buy for yourself.
Yeah.
That's another one too. You know, people would actually buy auction homes, or they'll buy foreclosure homes, so on and so forth,
Mhm.
in the sense that it's a very low price unit. But yet, once you start fixing it up, all of a sudden now you get your equity back, right? Because they're not selling those kind of units or homes for market value. They're selling for less than that in order to get to the number that you're looking for, right?
For
So,
sure.
yeah, I agree in the sense, again, what it says in the beginning, which is, you know, you buy low to get a better, you know, high return. So it's a really
Yeah.
good one to go with. Absolutely. And
Definitely.
then starting with investments, it's actually a really good thing to go with. So cash flow. In real estate, cash flow represents the amount of money that remains after all expenditures have been made. In other words, cash flow represents the profit that an investor can pocket after they've paid all their bills. So in hindsight to that, I mean, a perfect example to a cash flow, it would be a rental property. Look at
For
it
sure.
that way, right? So let's just say that you have, 3 rentals or 4 rental properties, whatever the case may be. You gained already what those rentals are. So if each one was 1,000, that's $4,000, right?
Hmm.
If your expenses, so pretty much the way to calculate cash flow in a simplistic way of looking at it is what your income is, what your expenditure, what your expenses are, and then that's your cash flow. Obviously, there's an extra math here and there, but the point
Hmm.
is this: you take what your income is with your rentals, you minus that with your expense, which is your mortgage, your property managers, if you have any, your taxes,
Yeah.
any work that needs to be done around the place, or so on and so forth. Every other expense flow. Once that is minus, excuse me, what I would also suggest is maybe putting in the piggy bank an
Yeah.
extra 5% of what you got from that particular mathematics, right? So you take that extra 5% off, and then that at the end will become your cash flow. So
Yeah.
um you know people, when speaking, investors know this, they understand this, but when you're starting out for the first time, you may not understand that in the beginning, right? However, it is an interesting thing to have, right? Because you don't know. The thing is about cash flow, it could be a positive and negative situation, right? Where you think that you're getting some money, but then you're noticing that you're spending way too much on expenses. So that means you're not getting enough income in order to support that expense. So
Yeah.
you need to really get to that point where, especially with cash flow, is know the property that you're buying and know the rentals that they're asking for.
Hmm.
Okay. And if your property is, well, let's just say worth a little more than what the market is asking for, go for it. But don't, if the market is asking for, let's just say $1,000, don't all of a sudden put your market rental at 600 or 700, right? Because you're not going to get anything out of it. You
Yeah.
want to basically make sure that you're actually gaining some money on that. So that's what
Definitely.
cash flow is pretty much is all about.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree. And these are just some of the things again to look for, right? These are things that you want to keep in mind when you're kind of creating those projections as far as what your profits and expenses are going to be. So, expect the cash flow from rental income, and they say that inflation favors the landlord, right? So we're
Mm-hmm.
literally going through that right now. And I see it as property values go up, as they cost more to purchase. What's happening to the rental market? It's also going up. It's costing more money for you to rent. So, yeah, inflation is going up, and people are kind of, again, bugging out because it's true. Things are just doubling up, and we don't know what to do. But now imagine if you had a rental property where you had people that were living there. Inflation goes up, rent goes up also. So that helps you, that benefits you in a positive way. All right,
Yeah.
expect increases in the value due to long-term prices. It's going to happen. Property, real estate appreciates every year. Okay. Benefits of depreciation, and that's really more like on the tax benefit, right? If it does depreciate, which I don't see it happening, right? I know it happened in 2008, 2009, but that's because of, again, everybody knows the lending firms. They were lending money to people that breathe. Anyone who can breathe was getting a loan. So I
Right.
don't see that happening today. There's so many strict guidelines that lenders go through before they even give you a loan. So I don't see that happening. You know what I mean? But if it was, again, you report it on your tax. If there's a
Right.
depreciation on something, you can report it on your taxes, and that would be like a credit back to you. Clearly, you have to present substantial income, but at the end of the day, that's something that you can take advantage of if we get to that part. You know what I mean? Again, I don't see any of these properties depreciating anytime soon. Okay. And again, just cost of benefit, and like when you're going through the reports and to see how much is going to cost to renovate something, again, keep that in mind before you're getting the right price for these properties. All right. So you price point it, see who's going to give you the best deal. Don't always go with the cheaper person, because we said this last week, right, Israel? If you take the
Yep.
cheap route, it's going to cost you more later on. So don't take the cheap route.
Absolutely.
See who's going to give you the best prices and kind of fall in the happy medium. Okay. Cost benefit analyst of mortgage loans versus value appreciation. That's
Right.
something a little more deep. You can speak to your lenders if you are taking out a mortgage for these properties to try to do, like I said, a rental property, fix and flip, or vacation home. So those are things you want to look for as you're doing this. Let me go to the next slide. And as we spoke about it, appreciation, right? The increase of the value of the property over time. It's I mean, we can't even drill enough on that. You know, it's gonna happen. It's
so
happening,
true.
Right? I remember, and Israel, I'm sure this happened to you, man. We deal with buyers. Buyers come through and they always say they're looking for a home. And I ask them, okay, what's your max budget? Right? That's my question.
Right.
Hey, you're looking for a dream home? Fantastic. What's your max budget? You know what the response is? The best price. Whatever home I can get for the best price.
Yes.
Right?
Always.
If it's cheaper, it's even better.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
If it's cheaper, it's even better.
Always.
Now, you know what and I don't know if this is happening to you now, Israel, but now I'm encountering buyers who are scratching their heads and saying, man, you know, I should have bought last year. This whole time I thought the prices were going to go down, and now they're even more than before. And I literally tell them, I know, I've been saying this for the longest. You know what I mean? And what are we dealing with now? High interest rates. We're already in the 4s.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're in the 4s, people are not hesitating to buy, and we're in the 4s. And even though we're in the 4s, it's still a historical low, because I remember when my parents were purchasing their home in the 90s, interest rate was anywhere between 11% and 18%.
Yeah, that's
and some of them,
I mean, that's in the 80s, yeah, 90s.
Yeah. Some of them weren't even fixed. So again, for me, my take on the appreciation value is it's happening. We've discussed it. Like I said before, we've already mentioned it. Properties are appreciating in 1 year. They're appreciating across the U.S. They're appreciating almost 50. They almost have a $50,000 in equity already sitting in their home, and all they did was pay their rent. That was the same exact amount of money that's supposed to be locked in for the next whatever contract, right? 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? Yeah. But that's what it is. You know?
So, well, just to, again, piggyback on that, and, you know, it's appreciation, exactly what it is. I've heard stories, you know, again, we've heard stories.
Yeah.
I should have bought it later. I should have bought it then. You know, oh my God, I never listened to you. I should have done it done. But appreciation, I mean, it's not only that. I mean, there's some things that we've already spoken about here today, right now, which is location. You know, that if it's a desirable location, it goes up because people are buying into that, right? There are people buying into those areas. The more people buy, the higher it can go. However, if it becomes undesirable, and that's all of a sudden now, you know, dropping down as we speak. However, also, and you just mentioned it too, which is I'm glad you did, which is interest rates. You know, the higher the interest rates and you're able to afford the home, right? Then you all of a sudden now you can get to, you know, have a nice appreciation because there's more people buying it. Once it gets to that level or that cap, as I somewhat put it, you know, it gets to that level to that point of, oh my God, I can't afford it because I'm not getting enough money or I don't earn enough to buy that home. Then all of a sudden prices would start going down. But honestly, would it skyrocket down like a stock market? No, but it will certainly drop down in order to level out so that people are able to buy a home again. And, you know, that's where appreciation will come in again. So, I mean, the 2-3 examples that I actually have, and we've said it already once with one of my buyers from back in the days, and another one as well, and stories that I've read as well, is that like one person who had purchased a studio or 1 bedroom years ago. We're talking about years ago. All of a sudden, this area wasn't as favorable as it is now, and then now it becomes a favorable area, and it's double the amount that she bought it for.
Wow.
Right? Double the amount years ago. I mean, honestly, we're not talking about 10 years ago, but, you know, within 7 to 8 years, it's now double the amount. So it happens. It certainly happens. You know, we will go through the little roller coaster rides, but the point is, there's always an appreciation when it comes to real estate. And if you're you're into it, you think you want to find out more about real estate, you have to get in there. You know, I feel that people to a certain point hesitate because they don't know if they can afford it. Speak to a realtor, speak to a lender, and let's get you started. That's the better answer I can give you there.
No, it's true. And the only tip that I can give on this is how I feel we have to look at it moving forward, right?
Right.
I say this all the time. I get into a conversation with sellers, with anyone, right? It always pops up. And I say, in my opinion, right, this is what we have to look at. These are what I believe are some of the facts, right? The first fact is, in my opinion, a lot of the folks that are selling their home are most of the baby boomers, right?
Mm,
This is that generation that is basically retiring. By 2030, they're all
yeah.
retired. By 2030, they're all retired. So these are the individuals that are now retiring, who are now relocating, right? Like my parents, perfect example. They're retiring, they're trying to relocate, and they're
Yeah.
relocating to another state. You know what I mean? So now they're cashing out on their property here to then go buy elsewhere. And the idea is they're buying here, they're cashing out their money. They're using half of their money to buy a house that would cost a million. It would have to cost $1 million
Yeah.
here in New York, 1,400,000. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But over there, they're selling for $350,000 to $450,000. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So now, if that generation is starting to put their homes on the market, the other thing we have to look at is the people that are buying. Now, granted, there are some older folks that are buying, right? Hands down, they've been renting for 30 years, and now they're like, it's time to buy because this rent is ridiculous. Fine, I give you that. But for the most part, we're looking at that gen like the millennials, the Gen
Yeah.
Ys, the Gen X's. These are the people that are now in full force looking for a home. So if
Of
we have
course.
a little bit of baby boomers putting their homes on the market little by little, we have an influx of people that are purchasing. So that to me is simple economics. It's simple supply and demand. If there is a small amount of supply, it doesn't matter what the interest rates are going to be. That price, in my opinion, is going to continue to go up. It's probably not going to skyrocket. If interest rates continue to go up, it's probably not going to skyrocket the way we saw it for the past two years. You know what I mean? It is going to level out, but it's going to still keep going up because it's just simply supply and demand. That's just my opinion. If anyone else feels different, in my thoughts, that's what I'm looking at. So, and then the
Yeah.
other thing we're looking at is people coming from overseas. There's a lot of people purchasing from overseas too.
A lot
You
of
know, so
investors. Yeah.
and then lastly, I believe that with the city kind of opening up more and more, these mandates kind of doing whatever, um, jobs are going to start to call their employees back into the office. So all these individuals that moved out of town because they were working from home, if their jobs are forcing them to come back, they now have a choice. Either they quit their job or they come back. Some people aren't going to quit, they're going to come back. So that's another influx of individuals that are now coming into these major cities again. So they left, now they're coming back in. So, in my opinion, like I said, I think that it's going to keep going up, at least for our market. I can't speak for all the other markets. That's
Yeah.
my
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. There's, I don't know. I guess I'll leave it at this, in the sense that there's portions in the states, different states that are actually are selling at a high percentage, and out of the 50 states, we're pretty much at a low percentage because we have certain restrictions, right? And yes,
correct.
there are some of it is being lifted and so on and so forth. I mean, not to go back and forth with this, but in the sense that whether people are going to go back to work or back
Mm,
to the office, there are those amount of people who want to go and use that idea or that flow of having in-person office, right?
yeah.
There's people out there that want that. That's fine. Um, However, I think they took into account if it's to that point that we need to go back.
Mhm.
You're not going to buy a home and then having to sell it right away. So I think they took into account of travel, which goes back to location we were just
Yeah.
talked about. So if I'm going to buy a home over in Long Island somewhere, I want to make sure that if I have to go back, I'm able to take the train back in, right?
Mm,
So um, little things like that. I think that that's where people are at now. I agree with you in the sense that it's the appreciation may go up. Values of homes go up no matter what. That is true. But how they go up, whether it's fast or slow, that's the difference of interest rates
yeah.
that slows it down, because it goes back to, again, supply and demand. People, if you're not able to support, I mean, if you're not able to afford it, then the demand there is going to be very low and it's going to be way too much supply at that point. So right now we're running into the point of having very little supply and a whole lot of
Hmm.
demand.
Hmm.
So in a certain way, it's going to balance out somehow. So, credit scores. is also a great factor behind this. And I think that credit scores are something that it is important because just by a few points away, you can lose a good interest rate.
Yeah,
Just by
it's
a
true.
few points away, like having a 720 from a 700, all of a sudden you lost a couple of points,
Yeah,
or 700 to 650, whatever. I'm just throwing numbers out there. You lost points. So the point is that you should always keep mindful of your credit scores. Make sure that your numbers are high. If you're not, if you haven't paid your bills, or if you have a delinquent there, just start paying it out. You don't always necessarily need to look at your credit score every month, but if you do it every quarter,
mhm,
that's fine too, so that you know exactly where you're at and how your numbers are looking for. Again, credit scores is not only for the investment of a home. It's great for when you're needing to buy a car or lease a car or any other things that involves with credits. So, and when loan officers, when they look at it, they actually do look at it, the credits. They want to make sure that you're actually high, that you're able to pay for things. So having a really great credit score is important.
mhm,
Even when renting, even when renting, you want a really good credit
100%.
score. So it's highly important. So to make sure your
Yeah.
credit score is fantastic.
No, listen, ultimately that's going to help you purchase, take out a loan, move forward, even in business credit. And that's another level. Like if like we're entrepreneurs, we're independent contractors, we can set ourselves up like a business, formally LLC, holdings corporation, whatever you want to call it. And through that, that can unlock some next level lending, okay? Because you're
Yes,
now getting
sir.
lending from a business standpoint. And what they look at is business credit. Now it's not the same as this credit, but again, you can set that
Not at
up with
all.
the credit bureaus done in Bradstreet, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
um, but through that, again, that's going to unlock different levels of lending. People are looking for your credit history. If you're not making payments, they don't want to lend to you. If you're making
Absolutely
payments
not.
and you show a good history of that and you're paying off your debts, then they do want to lend to you. So those are the
Right.
key things. And if you're jumping into something and you're looking to purchase a home, listen, if you're in a position to pay off any of those nitpicky bills like your credit card bills, pay them off, clear all that stuff off. You'll be amazed at how much that would help your credit score jump up.
Absolutely. And going
Okay.
back to the credits, to business credit, that actually helps out 1,000%.
Hmm.
There's a lot of experts out there that know exactly what you should do, how to build the LLC, to build a business.
Hmm.
In other words, to get everything going onto the business versus your personal situations.
For
So
sure.
that's really good.
Ooh,
Build
build
equity and
equity
wealth.
and wealth. I like that. So that's
So,
key. All right. The whole idea is to try to build that equity, build wealth. As we mentioned
hmm
before, you purchased a home a year ago. A lot of these individuals now have roughly about 50 to 70K in home equity, right?
hmm
How do you think rich people, those high powered people, get to those different levels, right? They're literally using up the money in their homes to buy another one, and they continue to do that. Why? You can use it as collateral. If you
hmm
don't pay your bills, the banks will take your houses. Simple as that. So what do you have to do? Pay your bills. Leverage
right,
your properties correctly so that you can now start to generate what we would call a legacy of wealth, right? Maybe we didn't come from money, right? If you're watching this
right.
today, maybe you didn't come from money. But how cool would it be to put yourself in a position to now generate that money for the next generation, right? I know a lot of, like my parents, a lot of that generation, I feel like they're not looking forward. They're only living in the present and remembering the past. So when I have these conversations with like the older folks, they're more in the sense of, no, man, why would I want to deal with that headache? They only look at the bad part about it. They're looking at the cup as if it was half empty instead of looking at it as it was half full, right? Because at the end of the day, this is what the older generation has to think about. At some point, they're going to retire. At some point, we're going to get older, right?
Yep,
If you
yep.
own a home, even if you pay off the mortgage that was owed on that property, you still have to pay the taxes. Now, we
Right.
already know, and a lot of older folks are complaining, oh man, this retirement money ain't really paying the bills, right? So what do you think is going to force people to do at that time, right? Let's say you're retired, you have this house fully paid off, your taxes keep going through the roof, and retirement money's not covering that, right? Then what do? They got to look for another job. So why would you want to look for another job to continue to put in your hard work, your energy, your time to just get a little bit of money? Why not make your money work for you? What if you can pull out some of that equity and buy a vacation home and rent it out on Airbnb? What if you can pull out
Exactly.
that equity and buy a multifamily and rent it out to some tenants, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what states you're in, like I mentioned before, the laws would favor the landlord. So you don't have to worry about that too much. You really don't want to deal with the headaches? Don't worry. There's companies out there that'll probably charge you 10% off of the work that they're doing if you really don't want to deal with it. But the
Right.
key there is now you have two properties. Now that can cover your taxes if you're renting it out. Now you don't have to get a second job. Now we're building more equity and we're generating wealth.
Yeah. So pretty much you said it all. But I mean, to piggyback on that is really building equity. I mean, again, if you're not into the idea of building your portfolio, if you're not into the idea of actually having more than one house, right, or owning a building, so on and so forth, then building an equity pretty much starts off by, if you own a house that has mortgage, look at it this way: the more you pay off that mortgage, and the quicker you are at doing so, we just said it, appreciation happens no matter what, right, over time. So the quicker you are to pay off that mortgage, the more equity you're going to have and the more wealth is going to be in your favor. So if you have more equity in your hand, meaning that you're ready to sell, now you're actually going to have more cash in your pockets. However, when you look at the wealth portion of it, when you're ready to actually now build your portfolio and saying, hey, I want more, another house, I want to buy my kids another house, my grandkids another house, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Now the lenders are going to look at that and say, you know what? You have enough money. Let's lend you something. Let's lend you a certain amount of money because you have that money now.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I mean, when you look at it at the residential level, pretty much, again, the faster you clean out that mortgage, the faster you clean out the lending portion of it, the faster you get to your equity, the better you'll look as how wealthy you're going to be when actually wanting to go on to the next level. And as an investor in that sense, really quick, is in the sense that, again, you have an equity on a certain property. You're not going to just have one property. The quicker it is for you to get to that equity level, the quicker you'll see that you'll see yourself having more wealth in your pockets.
Yeah.
So,
And who was it? Notorious B.I.G. said it. More money, more problems. Well,
of
you know
course,
what? It's inevitable. So the
yeah,
more money you want to make, the more headaches you might have to deal with. But the good news is there's companies, there's people out there that we can pay to deal with the headaches. So that'll
absolutely,
come with time. All right.
absolutely.
Ooh.
So real estate offers unlimited options. So real estate consistently increases in value over time, outperforms other investments, and this is interesting. And I love the fact that we're bringing this one up because we've said it already several times in this, and it's very true. Look at the fact that you can actually fix and flip a home. So certain cases, depending how much wrench work you put in, how much hammer work you put into it, you can actually get some equity on that and get some resource or values on that.
Yeah.
Fix and hold. So fix and hold is, again, either you want to stay there for a little bit or rent it out. Again, that is another great opportunities for you to have other options in your pockets, or the money's in your pockets. Buying a home that's a rental property. Now, in an upward market, if you buy a home at a good value, you can almost just fix it up and then sell it right away. And that almost becomes another way for you to get more money in your pockets. Ladies and gentlemen, we actually just had COVID, which is a very unfortunate situation. However, a lot of people during that time did a refi.
Yep.
All right. So if you refi from your 5, 6, 8, 10%, whatever you had, to a percentage that it was around, I think it was 3 at one point,
It went as
or two,
low as I think 2.6 or 2.7.
2.6. My lord,
That's crazy,
2.6
bro.
from a 8, from a 7. I mean, come on, even I would do it, right? The point is that you actually refi and you get that money back. And do rehabs as well to a home. I mean, if it's ancient, if it's old, if it's time, you can do the rehabs. My only suggestion is if you're doing a rehab, do it for two reasons. Either you're going to do it for yourself or do it for your next buyer. So keep that in mind as you're doing your rehabs. Okay. Incredible tax benefits. There are a whole bunch of them. I mean, we can go on and on for that. There's a whole lot of great benefits you get on having on your taxes, your property taxes. Fire your landlord. Now, this is written down in the sense that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a renter, little that you know, you may or may not know, you can actually buy a home, at either the less expensive price that you're renting it out for right now. So somebody can buy a home for 1,500 versus having to rent it out for 2,000. Think of it that way.
That's
Fire your
true.
landlord. And for those landlords that are listening, I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's all
owning
right. There's more tenants out there.
owning more than one property to build your wealth diversified portfolio. It's very true. Again, I mean, listen, Ed, I know you're working on building your portfolio. I'm also working on
Yeah.
building my portfolio. I actually, when you use a great word recently, which is legacy, that is really what I want. At the end, I pretty much want a really good legacy portfolio so that I'm able to support and supply my family later on in the future. Okay.
True.
And subdivide into multiple residential units. This is actually not, I don't think it's happening here in New York. There's a lot of happening down south, North Carolina, South Carolina areas where they're building out new areas.
Hmm.
Actually, no, I'm wrong. They are happening in Long Island. So, little things like that can happen
Yeah, little bits and
as far
pieces
as,
going on.
yeah. So you definitely will see that happening. And of course, these are just a snippet. There's
Yeah,
so much more you can do with unlimited options.
for sure,
So
man. And I love the fact that you kind of bullet pointed all of this, man. And it's true. It's true. There's unlimited opportunities available in real estate. The only advice that I can give you is as you go through this process, you might be someone who's brand new. You might be someone who has the money but doesn't know where to begin. You might be somebody who's dreaming about doing this in the future. The best thing that I can recommend to you is this: you got to build a team. All right. Who's on your team? Well, let's look at it. If you're going into real estate, number one, in my opinion, link up with a realtor. Why? They know the market. If you're looking to buy in
mhm,
that area, link up with somebody. Let them give you some pointers as to what we're looking at. How's the market doing? What's the
right,
price ranges? What are they selling for? How long are they staying on the market? Right? After that, whether you have the money or don't, all right, and I'm going to say it again, whether you have the money or don't, still speak to a lender. Why? Banks will always tell you, or even the people selling you the mortgages, it's better to use the bank's money than your own money. So if you're in a
absolutely,
position where you have a lot of money in your pocket, see how much you might qualify for a loan with minimal down payment. You never know what could happen to that property. You're going to need more of your cash in pocket, God forbid something happens after the purchase, than you will before the purchase. So be smart about that.
absolutely,
Try to hold that money.
absolutely.
The third person I want you to get in contact with is an accountant, right? Now we got to set this all up because you don't want to buy these properties and put them all under your name. God forbid somebody slips and falls. Guess what's going to happen? They're coming after you and everything you own. So even if they slipped at house A, they're coming after house B, C, D, and E. Okay.
Mm,
So what you need to do is you sit with the accountant so that you can write this up and file taxes appropriately. That way you're protected. If you have to set up a holding company, LLC, whatever the case is, you do that. All right. And that's how you set this all up. In my opinion, it's the agent, the lender, you speak to the accountant. Now, if you're doing fix and flips, you need a contractor. So then you get the contractor involved so that you know what you're looking at. And if to keep it real simple, you look at full gut renovations for one style of houses. If you walk into any other style house that looks similar to that one, you kind of already have an idea of how much that full gut rental is going to cost you. All right.
yep,
So those are the keys that I would believe. Build your team, put these individuals on your team. And after you make it happen, take care of those folks because they put a lot of time and effort into into helping you get to that point, and they were probably doing work even though you didn't see it. They were probably doing work behind the scenes. So take care of them, take them out, build that team, and let them know that if you're going to continue this process, you want to stick with them. And there's nothing better than having the same crew every time you do the same jobs, because you know they're either going to
Absolutely.
get cheaper, or you know 100% when they're going to get done, or you know 100% that the work is going to get done correctly.
Right.
All right. So that's the keys that I would leave there for you guys, to just kind of add to this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So real estate investing pros and cons. We'll go through this real quick. Pro, additional and steady source of cash flow, right? You get somebody renting there for some time, that's going to keep coming in until they decide to leave. Unique tax benefits, leverage borrowed money to make money through appreciation, growth in that portfolio, right? Some of the cons, upfront cash. You got to put deposits down. Like, the banks ain't going to cough up all of their money unless you're taking out a VA loan. You know what I mean? So have some cash in pocket. Ideally, look, investment properties, they're looking at 20% down payment. You know, there's ways around it. Like Israel and I, a while back, we did a session with one of the lenders that works with us. His name is Rodolfo, and he discussed how we can leverage from a first-time perspective, first-time home buyer, how you can leverage the first-time home buyer buyers program almost consistently, right? Like year after year. How can you do that? You gotta start with multifamilies and work your way down. That's something we could touch on later to go into more specifics. But
Yeah.
you would upfront cash, right? That's ideal. Unruly tenants or issues with the properties, we're seeing that, and we saw that a lot here in the state of New York. Like I mentioned before, the laws here favor the tenants, right? Eviction processes take a little longer. Since we had the moratorium, there's a lot of cases that have been held up or backed up since the moratorium started. Now that it ended, everything is now coming to the forefront. So what used to take, from what I heard, was 6 months, now could potentially take 9 months to a year or even longer. So yeah, those are the cons. But again, there's ways to go around it. If you have your team assisting you, then your agent would be helping you find the right tenants for that property. Long-term investment with poor liquidity, like I said before, if you don't have the funds in pocket, those are the things you have to look for. So don't liquidate all your cash assets. See if you can leverage the bank and use as minimal as money as you can from your side. And carrying the cost, look, they say that you need to look at a 10% vacancy rate when it comes to rental properties, right?
Right.
Like, you're calculating your income, they say, hey, add a 10% vacancy just in case people don't rent it for 10% of the month. This is things that you would want to look at. All right.
Yeah, and that's where it goes back to what I was saying before, where you actually make sure you always have that 5% reserves on the side. Make sure that you always have, and then it goes back to the liquidity portion of it as well, in the sense that, again, when you look at the areas that you're buying, are they appreciating at a high rate, or at least a decent rate? So. All right, man. Bottom line. I mean, I love how this is written out, but it's bottom line. Like, what are we doing? What are we getting? So pretty much, when you look at it this way, when you're investing in a home, when you're starting out for the first time, there's so much tutelage you can go with, so many classes you can go to, so many podcasts you can hear, so many Instagrams you can watch. But honestly, to be really honest with you, and most of them that I've heard, most of them that I've read, most of them that I've seen, ladies and gentlemen, you have to start. You pretty much have to start. That's where it starts. Take initiative. Go in there. Get in there. Start doing research on your own. Start looking. And what you look for, right? Not everything's going to look great, but the thing is, look for where you want to start your business. Look where you want to start your home. If it's all about investments, obviously, think about it this way. Again, as Ed has said it, appreciation always goes up. Whether it's slow or fast, it's always going. Also, think of it another way. Real estate investment is a better investment when it comes to comparing it to stock investment. Yeah. All right, look at the difference between the two, and the fact that you're always playing games trying to figure out which one is the stock that's going to get you the right money. Where investment in the short, long-term version of it, it's actually going to always go up. And then the other thing I also want to say is that, honestly, and Ed has pointed this out a couple times. I think I have once, but in the sense that real estate agents in your area are the key factors to helping you get to that next level that you want to, right? After you find out, I mean, you can have a little bit of money or a lot of money, but at the end of the day, these folks are on the floor. They're in the areas. They're in the areas that you want to be in. Call them, speak to them, let them know that you want this is the kind of house you will have, and they'll look out for you for that kind of house that you're looking for.
For sure, man. 100%. Reach out to them, and the good part about it is, do you have to absolutely work with that person? I would say no if you don't like them, if you don't feel.
You better work
comfortable
with me though.
person.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, anybody that works with me is comfortable, is confident
Yeah, I
that I'm going
agree.
to help them get it done. So I'm not too worried about that. But again, it's just
Absolutely.
something that, look, meet with them, engage with them, have the conversations with them. If you like them, fantastic. If you hate them, find somebody else. But ideal, like Israel said, they're in the trenches. They're out there putting in the footwork. You know what I mean? They know what's going on. They got their feelers out. They know how the market's looking. And plus, it doesn't happen all the time, but ever so often, they might get access to an off-market property and they can
Yep.
bring it to your attention. What does that
Yep.
mean? No competition. How cool would it be to have somebody on your team that can bring you an off-market property for a good price? At the end of the day, anything you list right now, if it's listed right in the right location, is going to fly right off the shelf. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could potentially sell for more than what they're asking for, unless it's priced high. That's a different story.
Right.
But like I said, these people would work for you, and they're going to go to town for you if you put them
Absolutely.
in your back pocket. And if they know that the same way they're giving you all that information and they trust working with you, that you also trust working with them, and you want to work closely with them. You're not going to be like some of the buyers that say, oh, I'm working with 6 different agents, and then they wonder why no one's getting back to them.
Exactly.
You know?
And you know that's a perfect portion that you're going there with. There's agents out there, you know, that would actually go into the trenches, go out there, and they would actually look out for their clients right away and try to make them happy as quick as possible. I always say to most of my clients, almost all of my clients, really, I mean, how do you want to buy your next home? Would you want to dictate the price, or you want the market to do it for you?
That's good.
All right. Let me know, and we can this way we can figure out how we're going to find your next home.
Yeah.
And
No, it's true.
and from there, you know, obviously, you know, I've been successful in that sense. But long story short, again, work with the team first. You know, again, find out where you want to go, work with the team to get you there, and then find yourself earning money, not tomorrow, but within years to come.
100%. It can't be
All right.
something that happens right away. You know what I
No,
mean?
no,
It can't. You can't think that it's going to happen the next day and that's it. Clearly, rent gets paid the first of the month, so you know you're going
Absolutely.
to get paid every first of the month. But the idea
Yes.
is create residual income, right?
And there's that possibility. A mortgage gets paid also.
100% it gets paid, man. 100%. Listen, if you're paying more than $2,600 a month in rent, you can buy. It doesn't matter what it is at this point. You can buy. You know, be smart about it. Look into it. If you can rent it out, if it's an apartment, make sure you're trying to rent that out. Make sure that you
Right.
have the ability to rent it out. You know what I
Right.
mean? And just you got to do it. Don't hold back. Don't be scared.
Yeah.
Oh, it costs too much. Guess how much it's going to cost later, right? Everybody that was waiting 2 years ago, 1 year ago, are now kicking themselves in the behind because what? They figured it was going to go down, that there was this magical bubble that was going to burst. I
Yeah.
don't even know what bubble they're talking about. We're 2 years into the pandemic and sales are through the roof, even though everyone presumed that the city was locked down. So
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
you gotta, like Israel said, just take the
start
lead,
it.
man. Just take
Start
the lead. Get your team, sit down, figure out what the numbers are. If it makes sense, just do it. All right.
Just
A year
jump in
from
there.
now, you're gonna be like, I cannot believe I got all this equity in this property.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Look, $10,000 equity is better than no equity. So
Yeah. Or even better. Because I had this conversation with somebody and they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's the mortgage? What's the taxes? Oh, everything came out to like almost $3,000. Oh my God, that's kind of high. Really?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of high. I'm paying $2,600. I say, yeah, okay. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't $2,600 for the past 30 years. Oh no, it's been going up. Yeah, probably like $100, $200 a year, right? Yeah, almost that. So if you could lock in your mortgage for $3,000 for the next 30 years, why would you be mad? And it's your property. You're not paying somebody else's
Absolutely.
mortgage. It's yours. You know.
Absolutely. And then 10 years from now, you can actually buy something else, or 5 years from now.
And still keep that property if you do it right.
Exactly.
And then you rent it out.
And then you rent it out. Exactly.
There you go. And now your mortgage is getting paid, and you're like, I don't even pay rent. I'm living for free. Yeah, that's the name of the game.
Welcome.
Let your mortgages and your homes pay themselves off.
Absolutely. Just say welcome. Welcome. Hello. How you doing? Well, folks, thank you so much for taking time with us. I mean, this is one of the things that I know Ed is, again, he's getting his foot wet, and he's getting himself into it.
This
and
was the reason why I actually jumped into real estate, believe it or not, was because I wanted to know how to invest. And here I am.
There you go. And I've dove in there head first now to the pond as well. So this is a really a good thing to go through. Remember, again, ask around, look at the information, read the books, but dive in there. Start going into your investments, because believe me, like I said, when you look at the two investments, when you compare stocks to real estate, there's one of them that always goes up. So,
stocks
all right, man.
Volatile. Real estate is holding appreciation. But guys, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. All right. We appreciate all of you folks checking us out, commenting in the chat boxes, and connecting with us. It is Friday, so what I will say is go out there, kill those open houses. All right. Make sure you're kind to everybody. The open house is your stage. People are coming to meet you for the first time. So go out there, make it happen. And just remember, you got to connect with these individuals. You got to love up on them, make them feel good and comfortable. And hey, maybe you can get a deal out of it this weekend, right? So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We love you guys. And like always, peace.
Adios.
I don't have any music.
Where's the outro music? Put the music on. Same thing as we had before. I won't dance to it though. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's not dancing.
Thematic. Oh, here's Feeding Ducks.
Oh my God.
Leave them with Feeding Ducks. How's that sound?
Back in the days, what was it? Cut it out.
I can see myself feeding ducks to this song. Right?
No, not okay. I'm sleeping. No. All right. Click. Where's that click button?
Peace, everybody. Feeding ducks.